This is how my AI agent fixed a silent $30,000 a year problem for waste management. Most companies don't realize it, but small miscommunication and lack of data is actually silently bleeding a lot of money, especially if you're a larger company. This team was already very solid and committed. However, they didn't have a system to hold managers and workers accountable and collect key insights, real-time data to make accurate decisions. And that's exactly the gap that we filled. We built an AI agent that silently collects updates, it flags misalignments, and also holds everyone accountable and keeps them in the loop, without the need for adding more meetings or manual work. And in just a few months, this is saving them more than $30,000 a year. So here's the breakdown. This is a very complex solution, so I'm first of all going to give you a high-level overview of what actually happens. Second, I'll show you an example call so you can get a feel of what this AI does. And third, I'm going to walk you through the back-end systems, the automations, and the actual AI prompting to show you how you could replicate this for your company. If you're new to the channel, then welcome. My name's Liam. I help businesses all over the world to implement advanced AI phone agents into their businesses. So if you'd like to explore how we can do the same for you, just use the first link down below to book a free AI consultation call. I look forward to hearing from you, and now let's dive into the demo. Right, so first I'd like to give you an overview of this system. So basically this company has many events, right? These events, they happen daily, they overlap, and it could be something like a tech conference, for example, where the company is in charge of handling the waste. And to these events, what they do is they send managers and workers. They send many workers for each event, and then also one or two managers, depending on the scale. And as you can imagine, right, you start to have quite a lot of people on the field. And this can be very overwhelming. Even though the company already has a fantastic overview, you'll see in a moment that there's a web of information out here. Okay, so what was the actual tangible problem that we solved? The thing that we solved was, first of all, the workers had a hard time logging in correctly, and some of the managers had to, when making payroll, they had to follow up with these workers to make sure that they were actually on site, that they logged in correctly. Oftentimes, you accidentally log into the wrong thing, so this was one big thing that took up a lot of time. The second thing was that the managers, the main way of getting information from them while they were on site was to send them a feedback form, which they would then fill out maybe right after the event. In practice, it was more like 1 or 2 days afterwards. And it's very hard to remember this form. It's easy to forget. And also the type of information that they needed needs to be spontaneous. For example, could you quickly look into the dumpster and estimate, is it 70% full? Is it 20% full? Try remembering that 2 days later. It's very difficult. Or it's something like, for example, do you need an extra worker? What happens if 2 of them accidentally get injured, or maybe somebody doesn't show up? The AI, in a moment you'll see, sends real-time updates and realigns workers and helps you to have an overview. So the other option that they were looking at is getting a person to call each manager multiple times per day. Right? To call them like 3 times per day and ask them a set of questions. And based on those questions, they would then write reports and get data for them to analyze in spreadsheets, so that they have more insights over the course of the year. And the problem with this is that, first of all, it costs a lot of money to pay someone full-time to do this. And the second thing is, I would be miserable. Imagine having to call the same people every day, ask the same questions, and write the same reports. It's pretty boring. So instead, we told them, let's replace this with an AI. And AI, as you'll hear in a moment in the example, sounds extremely realistic, and it's capable of taking real-world actions that are very useful for the company. So what the AI does is it will call the managers 3 times a day, collecting key information, which is then summarized into reports at the end of the day. That data is then analyzed and put into spreadsheets for the company to use. They now have accurate information on how much waste they are diverting from these events, which can then be used to write AI press releases at the end of every month, which it also does. What it also does is create Slack channels. It manages Google Drive folders. It automatically puts all the right data into the right category. It creates Slack messages for urgent updates to send to the C-level of this company, like one of the workers is missing, we need another worker, or actually we might be working 2 hours more today, right? That's also something that happens, because the problem with this is sometimes these things, they surface at the end of the month. And then you're left following up with every single one on the team to double check. Were you on site? Did you work 2 hours later? Do we need to pay you more? With this, the data is instantly filed and categorized and can be used in a great way. So as you can see, there is a pretty big web of data that's flowing back and forth. And this is very hard to keep track of, but AI does not care. AI has such a massive window of understanding that it can keep track of everything every time and just help the company organize all of this data into just simple reports, simple spreadsheets, simple messages for them to look at, which overall not only gives you peace of mind, but it just helps you make better. It just helps you make better decisions at the end of the day. So I know this was a lot to take in, but hopefully the demo call that I'll show you will make this a little more clear. One thing I will say though is I can only show you one of these 3 calls, because to actually get 3 calls a day, you have to log into their system and actually assign yourself a shift, which I can't do. But I'm going to show you an example call that I recorded a few days ago while testing, so that you get an idea of what this AI does in practice. And afterwards, I'm going to show you the breakdown of the softwares I used and how this looks on the back end.
Hi, Liam. This is Charlie calling for the end of day call. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Charlie. Thank you.
That's great to hear, Liam. Just a quick check. Will you only be working until the end of your shift, or will you be working later as well?
I might actually be working a bit later today.
Got it, Liam. Can you share the reason why you might be working later today?
Yep. So we might be working later because there's an extra pile of clothing which we need to haul, and we didn't anticipate that.
Thanks for explaining, Liam. How much longer do you estimate it'll take to finish hauling that extra pile?
Probably another hour.
Thanks, Liam. So just to confirm, with the extra hour, you'll be working until around 3:30 a.m. today, correct?
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right, I'm just informing Mary and Bernadette that you will be working later today. Hold on a sec.
Okay.
Liam, is there anything else that Mary or Bernadette need to know immediately?
Yeah, one of the workers actually slipped and we took him to the hospital. Everything's okay, but just as a precaution, we wanted to let you know.
Thanks for letting me know, Liam. Just to clarify, one of the workers slipped and was taken to the hospital as a precaution. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
All right, Liam, I'll make sure Mary is informed about this as well. Hold on just a moment. Liam, I have a couple of final questions for the day. First, did anything go awry or differ from what was expected?
Well, yeah, we had this extra pile of clothing and the worker slipped. But other than that, we handled it quite well, I think.
Thanks for sharing that, Liam. Next, did you have everything you needed to complete your tasks
Yes,
today?
I did, yes.
Thanks, Liam. Did you experience any challenges today?
Yeah, well, that worker slipped, and but I think other than that, in terms of the actual just waste management, no. But yeah, the worker slipped, so.
Thanks, Liam. Did you have to haul any unanticipated waste today? If so, could you describe it?
Not really waste. There was this extra pile of clothing, but in terms of the actual waste, no.
Thanks for clarifying, Liam. Moving on, is there any food rescue needed?
None
yes,
today,
how
no.
much and where will it be taken?
No, we haven't got any today.
Thanks, Liam. Lastly, did you do a site walk, either with or without the producer, to verify that all Green Mary equipment has been retrieved?
Not yet, but we'll do that once we finish up in an hour.
Thanks for the update, Liam. Just to confirm, are you the closing manager for today?
Yes, I am.
All right, Liam, let's get into the waste tonnage. For the recycling, are you using bags to self-haul, toters, or a dumpster?
We're using a dumpster, actually.
Thanks, Liam. How big is the dumpster, and what percentage would you say
it's
full?
a 10 cubic yard dumpster, about 40% full.
Thanks, Liam. So just to confirm, you're using a 10 cubic yard dumpster, and it's about 40% full. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Great, Liam. Now, for the trash, are you using bags to self-haul, toters, or a dumpster?
Also a dumpster again. This one's 24 cubic yards, by the way.
Thanks, Liam. How full would you say the 24 cubic yard dumpster is?
It's about 90% full.
All right, Liam, last question for today. Let's get into the compost. Are you using bags to self-haul, toters, or a dumpster?
Again, a dumpster. This one's 10 cubic yards and about 60% full.
Thanks, Liam. So for the compost, you're using a 10 cubic yard dumpster and it's about 60% full. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you for all the details, Liam. My AI systems are now estimating the waste diversion on the spot. Hold on just a moment. Liam, congratulations on your efforts. You've successfully diverted 0.6 tons of compost, 0.6 tons of recycling, and managed 1.08 tons of trash.
Wow.
Great work, keep it up.
Thanks.
Liam, were there any other special items removed today? Things like pallets, clean plastic film, signage, or clothing?
Yes, we actually had only a couple of pallets, about 7.
Thanks for letting me know about the pallets, Liam. Were there any other special items removed, like clean plastic film, signage, or clothing?
No, just the pallets for today.
Got it, Liam. Just a quick reminder, if you're using a rented truck, be sure to remove the magnetic placards before returning it.
Sure.
Now, what would you say was the highlight of today's event?
Well, we actually had 70% glass, which is unusual, so that might be interesting.
Thanks for sharing that, Liam. I really appreciate all the details you've provided today. Keep up the amazing work. This was the last call for the day, so I won't be checking in again. Have a great rest of your shift.
Thank you, bye-bye. And there you go, it even hangs up on its own. Pretty damn cool. Pretty awesome. Alright, so I hope that example gave you some insights as to how realistic these AI agents sounds and how they can use tools to actually real-time perform valuable actions. So now I'm going to walk you through the entire build. Now, for privacy reasons, of course, I'm going to blur out the name of the company and I won't go into every single specific nook and cranny of this solution, but I want to give you enough overview to understand what's going on. So for this, we're first of all going to go into Make.com because the tech stack that we're using is Retail AI and Make. And as you can see, there is quite a lot of scenarios here which are not uncomplicated, to say the least. So I'm going to try and walk you through this as high level as I can without going into stuff that's just boring for you. Okay, so what happens here? So basically, this company was using Shiftboard. And we first of all use this module here, which contains custom code to retrieve the shift data from Shiftboard. Now, this data, basically we pass it through here and then loop through for every single shift, we loop through everything from this point onwards. So first of all, what happens is we check, is there already a Google Drive folder for this event? If not, we create one. Same thing for the Slack channel. Is there a Slack channel for this event? If not, we create one. Is this user already added to the Slack channel? If not, then we add them. And then we also send a quick reminder message to every person. Hey, just make sure that you log in correctly. Double check that your shift times are right. Thanks. Like a little message like that can already make a world of difference. Next, over here, we have a filter for the managers. Only the managers proceed through to this point. We first of all format the phone number. And next, what we do is we actually have quite a few spreadsheets, which I can't show you now for privacy reasons, but spreadsheets we used here for storing data in between calls. And you'll get an understanding of this. But basically, we have a safety mechanism here that the sheets don't contain data they're not supposed to contain. We check before initiating the next processes that information doesn't overlap and the system doesn't break. All right, so these things over here are divided into 3 different calls. And for each call, we first of all map variables like the event name, the manager name, the phone number of the manager, which the agent will call. And then here we have calculations to set the call time to be 15 minutes after the shift starts. Then we tell them when the next call will be, which is in the middle of the shift. And then we also have one call for the end of the shift, which is 20 minutes before the shift ends. We add this information as a placeholder into these spreadsheets. And then we use this CodeKit module, which once again, I unfortunately cannot show you, but we show this module. This is basically a way to execute, to trigger another webhook at a specific time. So now what we do is at the very beginning of the day at midnight, this thing triggers, creates all the right folders, and it schedules the calls throughout the day. That's the first thing that happens. And then what happens is we send it over here, which basically this webhook receives the information that we just sent across and then triggers the retail AI agent. Now, the retail AI agent looks like this. And as you can see, we have call 1 over here, call 2 is there, and call 3 is here. And I showed you call 3 in the demo before, so that'll already seem familiar. But what we do here is basically also the prompt is very basic. We've told the agent to collect information. And with the retail conversational flows, there's not actually a lot of prompting that you need to do on the right here. Most of it's done in these nodes. But what we do is we send through these variables like the manager name, the next call time, the call tag. This one's important for the agent at the very beginning to decide, is this caller calling for the beginning of the day brief? Are they calling for the midday check-in call, or are they calling for the end of day call? And that way, what's cool here is that we've managed to put all 3 calls into one agent, which makes things a lot simpler on the back end and also saves cost because they don't need 3 different phone numbers. And basically, you know the drill, right? If it's the beginning of the day call, the agent already knows the manager's name. It says, "Hi, John, how you doing? I'm calling for the briefing call. Let me ask you these questions, bum, bum, bum. I'll check in again at 2 p.m., for example." Then the next call triggers at 2. It asks them these questions. And then here we have this function, which I won't show you that because that'll reveal some data I'm not supposed to reveal. But basically what this does is it sends information to make.com. And in make.com, we have these tools for the agent. And I already showed you this in the example. It sends, basically, here it triggers the Slack message to be sent to the management team if something happens that the caller wants the management team to know about instantly. Then it collects the rest of the information and the questions, and then the same thing goes for the last call. It first of all checks if the caller is working late. If they're working late, as you already saw in the example, it sends a Slack notification. Same thing goes for here. You can add some more details if you want to send an instant message. And next, it asks some more questions and then checks if they're the closing manager for today, because sometimes there's more than one manager, and we only want to ask these questions to the manager who actually is there at the end of the event. So here we split this into 3 categories, the compost, the recycling, and the trash, to collect 3 individual waste tonnage amounts. And as you saw also in the example, the flow has actually evolved since then. So it calculates the 3 different waste types individually, add them to a master spreadsheet with all the accurate waste tonnage details, and then ask them a few final questions. Tells the caller live what they have accomplished today. That's also a huge part, because the caller now knows, hey, I've managed to divert 2 tons of waste today. How cool is that? Right, to get that live on the call. And asks a few final questions, and that's basically the way this call works. And of course, this isn't like a step-by-step tutorial, right? That would take hours and hours and hours. But I think you get the idea of what this does. And then once it's done, we of course also have a flow that allows it to call back. So if you miss the call, remember the information is stored in some Google Sheets. So if you miss a call, you can just call back, and the agent will have a memory. It can remember what the last call was, and it basically makes sure that if you call back, it asks you the right questions. Basically, the end of call report is basically another step that we've added to just quickly check. This AI steps looks at the transcript of the call, checks was it complete or not. If it was complete, it adds the transcript. If it wasn't complete, then it adds a little notification into that spreadsheet saying, if the caller calls back, ask him these questions because this call wasn't complete yet. That's what I just talked about before. And then we have generate reports, and this happens at, I believe, 4 times a day. This triggers and it goes through the master spreadsheet where all of the information is kept 4 times a day, and it basically checks if it sees that 3 calls have been made successfully, it extracts the transcript from those calls into this AI module, which then writes a report, puts it into the according Google Drive folder based on the event name once again. creates a Google Doc, puts it into the Drive folder, and then also deletes the rows that it doesn't need from the memory anymore. Right? It cleans up after itself. And that's what I was also talking about in the beginning. This step over here, this is just a double check to make sure that the memory doesn't overlap, because then it could get confusing if somebody tries to call back. It's just a good practice to have double security measures. And then over here we have the monthly press release, which once again looks at these master spreadsheets, extracts the data, writes a detailed press release and puts them into a Google document, and then once again also cleans up after itself, which is pretty damn amazing. And yeah, as you can see, the amount of workflows needed to complete this and the complexity of this agent is not to be overlooked, to be fair. Like this is a solid chunk of actions it performs every single month. And I always love looking at this because I think every single time I see this, I go, there's some person out there who never ever has to do this again, right? We've just saved somebody another hour. Every time this runs, I know that we've saved someone another 5 hours of work, of writing reports they didn't want to write, of making a call they didn't have to make. And it's very special, to be honest, to be able to say that, yeah, you're helping people in this way. Very grateful, to be honest. Very, very grateful to be able to help people out like this. All right, I hope you got some value from this video. As you can see, it was a very complex solution, but I hope you were able to get the insights you needed without me boring you to death with technical details. But if you do have some more detailed questions, just feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. I reply to every single comment, and I'm happy to give as much free value as possible. And that being said, we are actually offering free AI consultation calls. So if you're wondering if this is something that you can use in your business, I'm happy to give you a free consultation on how this would be possible. You can find that using the first link down below. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you in the next one.